Well, it's been a minute since I put out a video, and a lot has happened in that time. And I thought I'd go over what's happened in the past 3 weeks. I'm filming this in my dad's office. I kind of like the acoustics of it, and that picture right there is kind of one of my favorite pictures of me when I was racing mountain bikes a long time ago out in Lajitas, Texas. And that thing right there is a humidifier weather gauge that is very old. As a matter of fact, my cousin found it in the Mojave Desert, cleaned it up, fixed it and everything. I was over at his house one time and I fell in love with it, and I said I had to have it. He gave it to me and my dad saw it and he said he had to have it, so it sits in my dad's office. So my surgery was on June 6th, which was a Tuesday, and I was able to get out of the hospital on June 8th, which was a Thursday. And I felt really good about myself, to tell you the truth. I was doing the walking a little farther than they asked me to. I felt really good. When I got home, you know, I did my bed rest, I took my medications as required, and I was walking between 6 and 10 minutes a day, 3 times a day, which is what they required. And I really wasn't walking that far. Sometimes I would take my mom's dog on a walk down the street, but there was no hills or anything like that. Get down to the corner, turn around, come back. That was usually 10 minutes. Sometimes I was doing it on our patio here. The back patio is 75 feet long. So I was making laps on there some days, you know. I really didn't feel that I was working that hard, but I felt good. Tuesday, 1 week later, I still felt good. On Wednesday, 8 days out of surgery, I had my first appointment with my cardiologist. Went to his office in McKinney, which is about, I don't know, about 15, 18 miles away. Met with him and everything. He checked me. He said I had a little fluid building up on my left side of my chest, which is where I had my surgery. So he put me on another cortisone pill because the ones that I had taken, I'd already completed those. So he said, I think we'll put you on a cortisone, dry you up. Started taking that Wednesday night. Thursday, took the pills, did everything I was supposed to do, and Friday, same thing. Friday night, before I was going to go to bed, one of the incisions that was in my side was where they put a tube during surgery, and it was in me for the 2 days that I was in the hospital. And that tube drained fluid off of my chest, and it was a pinkish fluid. You know, you could see it was a clear tube, and you could see it. By the time I got home and everything, it never leaked the whole entire time I was home. And the hole is about the size of a lima bean, kidney bean, garbanzo bean. But it never leaked, it never did anything. So I didn't think much more about it. They just told me don't put any lotions on it or anything, which I didn't. Friday night, before I was going to go to bed, I noticed my shirt was all wet and everything, and pulled it up, and that hole was leaking fluid. Thought that was real strange, but they had sent me home with big gauze bandages and tape. Put a gauze bandage over it and went to bed. Didn't think much more about it. And early Saturday morning, like 3 o'clock in the morning, man, I woke up to just huge chest pains. I mean, huge chest pains. And they weren't the same kind of chest pains as when I was hurting before. But it was hurting right where the surgery was. It felt like that alien monster was gonna pop out of my chest. The other thing that was going on was I was just sweating like crazy, and my body, every time my heart moved, I could feel it shake. Boom, boom, boom. I was trying everything I could do to go to sleep, but I could not go to sleep. Got up in the morning, took that bandage off, and it was completely soaked through, so I put a new bandage on, went downstairs, had breakfast, and I felt a little bit better, but I could feel my heart, and my chest was just killing me. My sister came over and she looked at me and she goes, you think you need to go to the hospital? I was like, yeah, I need to go. Parents took me back down to Plano, where I had my surgery, to that hospital. They have an ER there. Went in the ER, and those people were great. I walked in there, she said, sign in, and I told her what was going on. They brought me in. She put me on a pressure cuff, checked my blood pressure and stuff. My heart was beating at 155 at that minute. So they zoomed me back there, put me on a gurney, hooked me up to all kind of electrodes and stuff like that, and started putting IVs into me. The highest I saw was 166. I don't know if you know what 166 is. I don't know if you understand that the basic how many beats per minute your heart should be in, what range. You take 220, subtract your age, and that number is your max heart rate for your age, okay? My max heart rate for my age is 160. I was 6 beats above that. You're not supposed to stay at 160 the whole entire time. You know, these athletes and things like that, when they train for distance and things like that, they train for sprinting, and it's how long they can sustain that high heart rate, but they got to come down to it, and how quick they can bring it down. So my heart rate was staying up and it wasn't coming down. And basically I was running a marathon and my heart didn't invite the rest of my body. The other thing that was going on was it was what they call Afib, afibrillation. So that meant that the top left chamber was beating 166 beats in a minute, with the lower one at a normal rate. So you had this top one, bing, 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 and this one is just doing like this. So you got them going slow and fast. And the problem with that is that all the blood, it's not squeezing all that blood out down into that chamber and back. Basically, it's creating a whirlpool of blood that's not leaving the heart. And what's the problem with that? The problem is that you can get blood clots and then you could get a stroke. So it was not a good situation at all. So the ER doctor and nurses, man, they hooked me up, and what they did was they shot some kind of drug into me, and it brought my heart rate down to about 120. After probably not a very long period of time, probably 10 minutes or so, it went back up again. So they hit me with that drug again. This time it went into the 130s and it wouldn't leave. It didn't leave the 130s, go up into the 140 range and then come back down, but it wasn't going down. It needed to go down. Your resting heart rate laying flat should be anywhere from between the 60s to 70s. And it wasn't anywhere close to what my resting heart rate should be. So they hit me again with that drug. So I had that drug 3 times put into me, and it didn't move. It just stayed right there in the 130s. The doctor called and said, we need to get this guy in a room, blah, blah, blah. And they wheeled me into a room. A bunch of nurses put more IVs into me and things like that. Doctors came in there. So Saturday, Sunday, they just basically kept me on drugs and fluids to keep it down, just maintain that, but it never would go down. So Monday afternoon, another doctor came in there, and he deals specifically with for lack of a better term, the electronics of your heart and what's going on. And that's his specialty. So he came in there and said, listen, we're probably going to have to shock your heart. And it's called a cardioversion. And what they do is they put you out, and they go in there. They put these big pads on one on my front of my chest and one on the back, and basically hook me up to a machine, and they shocked me. And what it does is it causes your heart to kind of almost stop and then get back into rhythm. So for a split second, my heart would stop and then get back into rhythm, and then all of them would be pumping at the same time at the correct rhythm. Basically whatever my resting heart rate should be. Anyway, but he said, but we're still trying to get it down with drugs. And also you have a fluid buildup on your lungs and in your chest cavity. This is what caused your Afib. So what they want to do is try and get all that stuff. So on Monday, they were pumping me full of diuretics basically. And I was urinating like crazy. When I went into the hospital, I was 209. When I left, I was 202. So they drained me pretty good. But that stopped this from draining, so that was a good thing. But they also wanted the fluid out of me before they were going to shock my heart. So on Tuesday morning, came back in and said, okay, today we're going to shock you. So all right, so around 2 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon, they brought in a crash cart. So basically they set my room up like an operation room or an ER room. Basically had a crash cart in case I did flatline. Nurses all had a position they were going to. Basically put this bite thing in my mouth, opened my mouth. They stuck a camera in my throat. And what the camera was for was, first what they wanted to do was make sure there were no blood clots in my heart, because if they were, they weren't going to be able to shock me. So they wanted to make sure there was no blood clots in there, and if there weren't, they were going to shock me. They had an anesthesiologist there, signed the paper saying it was okay to put me out, put me under. I looked, there's a clock right there, and I looked up at it. It was 3:10. That was the last thing I saw. The next thing I remember was it was 3:25. That's how quick it was. And the nurse is asking me how many fingers, let me see your eyes, everything. And I actually was a lot clearer headed than when I was from surgery, waking up from surgery. It shocked my heart into the correct rhythm. My heart rate was back down in the 60s, and everything looked good. And on Wednesday, they released me from the hospital. So I spent from Saturday to Wednesday at the hospital. And I spent Father's Day, that Sunday, which was Father's Day, there with my dad. My dad came there at like 8 in the morning, and he stayed by my side the whole time. So my dad spent Father's Day in the hospital hanging out with me, and we read, and I don't know what all we did. And I gave him sherbets because they would give me orange sherbet, and I didn't want that much. My dad, he liked the orange sherbet, so we had a good time. But that's how my dad spent his Father's Day, was in a hospital. Thursday, I was already scheduled to see my surgeon who did the surgery, and basically that was going to sign off, and I wouldn't have to come to him anymore. I was feeling a little different, but I felt like my heart rate was kind of going up, and I checked it, and it seemed okay, but it was a little higher than I liked. Basically, the surgeon signed off on me, so I no longer have to go to the surgeon. I still keep going to my cardiologist, and my cardiologist is in McKinney, which is closer than Plano. And they also have a hospital with an ER and everything there as well. Thursday night, about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, man, my heart rate went back up. It didn't go into the 160s. It was just in the 135, 140 range, and it would not come down. And again, I could feel my body go like this, boom, boom. I didn't have the pain like I did before, but I could not get my heart to do anything, and I was in cold sweats again. So by 5:30 in the afternoon, we decided to go back down to the hospital. Instead of going to Plano, I went to McKinney. The reason why is my cardiologist was there. And again, that ER, that's my first time ever there. They were great. So walked up to the counter, told the nurse behind the counter, I said, hey, this is what's going on. Just had heart surgery, just was in the hospital 2 days ago, and my heart rate is up 135. Man, she stood up and marched me in there. Like everybody who was waiting in line, that wasn't a care in the world for those guys, man. They just wheeled me in, brought me in a room, and next thing I know, when I landed on the bed and looked up, there must have been 4 nurses, 2 doctors, and crash cart and everything in there. Next thing I know, they're just sticking IVs in me, electrodes on me, checking my EKG, and I could look over and see it on the monitor, and it was up there in the 130s. So they're giving me the same drugs to try and get it down, and it would go down, but it wouldn't go really far down. So I ended up spending the night in the ER on Thursday night. Friday morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock, my cardiologist came in. He's like, man, dude, what are you doing here? He's like, I've been seeing all the reports. He goes, I don't know what's going on. Typically, and he's not the only person. He said typically people that have heart surgeries of some kind will get Afib. About 30 to 40% of the people get it. And there I am in there. He goes, listen, we got to do the cardio version again. I was like, all right, 827, because they wrote it down on the board right there. 827, hit me with the drugs. I was out. The next thing I remember, I actually was calling my sister at 8:55. So again, and probably 15 minutes out. Anyway, they shocked my heart again. Everything went back into rhythm again. And I felt fine. As soon as they do it, man, you can tell you're fine. You can tell you're normal. When I woke up, I could tell I was normal. And I look over, resting heart rate was about 69. Gave me my paperwork, and I think I was out of there about 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon. It is Monday. You might be seeing this on Tuesday. And Tuesday is 3 weeks from when I had surgery. The second time when I got home, I was really afraid to do anything, because I didn't do anything when I got home the first time. I didn't feel I was doing anything to cause it to start back up again. So when I came home, I went to bed Friday, and I slept in and pretty much almost refused to come out of my room, to be quite honest with you. I was afraid to stub my toe. And really, my mom was great. On Saturday, she's like, come on, let's go downstairs and stuff. And so, today's Monday. I've got a doctor's appointment with the doctor that did the first cardio version. He'll check. He knows about the second one. So I've got that appointment today. I feel a little bit better mentally now. It's very scary. I wasn't prepared for it, that's for sure. The heart surgery I was prepared for. I had plenty of time to think about it. I was ready to kick ass and take names type of situation. You know, there's a reason for this. I don't know what the reason is, to be quite honest with you, but there's a reason for it. And I have to figure out why this happened to me. God has a plan for everybody. And let's see, you know, what it's all about. I may never know what it was all about, but there was a reason for it. That's kind of where we're at right now. I think I hit all the high points of it. If you got any questions about it, or if I said something wrong, hey, let me know, man. I'm no expert at this. I'm just the guy going through it, okay? Anyway, I really do appreciate all the support. I have one more thing to say. I put out a short about going in for heart surgery. There was a girl, she's 15 or under 15, she said, and she's had 7 heart surgeries. I just had the one. There are people going through a lot worse than I am going through, that's for sure. So I still feel that I'm a pretty lucky person. There's no doubt about it, I'm a lucky person. But there are people out there stronger than I am, that's for sure. Anyway, I think I'm done rambling on. If you like this, please put a like, a comment, whatever. Please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And we'll see what the next one is. Hopefully it has no hospital pictures. Later.